know, they always talk about, let's get all our braking done, let's get all of our downshifting done, let's get into positions, look through the corner, okay, and then turn, right? So we were, you know, and I was doing it too. I'd get coming down straight away, and you can really see it with people. Downshift, brake, let off the brake, move my butt over, stick my knee out, and then turn. So what happens is that we end up doing kind of a line like we were talking about earlier, where, okay, so here's the line we're using, right? So we're doing all our, so now we're getting away from that. We're getting away from all the braking and downshifting and setting up, and we're trying to learn to trail brake. But we're still kind of stuck on this line right here that everybody's using, that we learned in the beginning, that they're still teaching upstairs, which is maximum brake pressure, downshift, everything stop, get off the brakes, and then turn, okay? Which means that I start my braking here, and I stop my braking here. Either way, even if we're trying to trail brake, we really need to be off the brakes about right here. Because this is the point that we're at maximum lean angle. We've reached maximum lean angle about right here, okay, if we're taking this race line. So what we're going to try to work on today, and we're going to start working on the tracks when you guys ride on it, is we're going to come in right here, okay, and we're going to start. So we're going to start turning in our bike a little bit early. See where we're at right here? And what this means is that actually, you know, you really could get off the brakes up here, you know, if you were a star. But we're just going to work on kind of getting off the brakes here at the clip point. But the distance, if you'll notice, if you take the same amount of distance, because you can only stop a bike so fast, right? At some point the rear tire comes off the ground and you're going to start doing a stoppie, and you know, so you can only apply so much brake pressure. But so this distance, we don't change the distance. It's the same braking distance, but see, we can start our braking here, you see? So by trail braking, we can brake further into the corner, so we can start braking later. So you guys, I want you to focus on that today some, and this is going to really help you. This is what's going to help you kind of get around some traffic when you start running into people that are parking in the corners. This is the kind of stuff that you can start doing. Does that make sense to everyone? Everyone understand that?
There's always two types of trail braking. You're either trailing on the brakes or you're trailing off the brakes. This type of turn, like Grant said, we want to trail the brakes going into the turn. We want to get set up, we want to get that bike pointed more at a direct angle to the curving, right? So we're trailing on the brake on the entry. Once we get to maximum lean angle, we're trailing off the brake to get off of it and to get out to apex and get on the throttle out of there, okay?
the track. There's no time there. There's no time to be made, but there is a ton of time to be lost. But if you blow Diamond's Edge and you're too wide for this turn 3 up here, so we're in Diamond's Edge and we're coming in this corner, we blow it, we're all off the line, we miss our clip point, and then we're running wide at exit and we're too tight for this corner, we're gonna have to slow down too much. So now we've had to slow down before the second longest straightaway on the racetrack.
Yeah, and actually I had a guy that I was filming a couple times ago coming through here. That exact thing happened to him, and when he came out over here, he almost high-sided to the moon. I have it on footage of him stepping out and getting squirrely. That's what's going to happen if you get pushed out here and you're too tight here and you flip over and give it, I mean, just a handful of throttle. You've got to nail this line coming out of here to be safe as well too. And again, here's the exit, right? So we're just going out, we're getting on the throttle off of the curbing, standing the bike up, getting on the throttle, letting it drift all the way out to the edge of the track again.
Say all things perfect, tire pressures are correct. You want a trail brake to the apex because it puts more weight on the front end. The bike, chassis want to turn when they got more weight on the front. So the weight in the front, all the steering is done on the front of the tire, and then when you get off the brakes, the chassis essentially transfers to a balance point. That's why it's so important to pick up the throttle early, because you transfer weight to the rear, stabilizes the chassis. When the bike's mid-corner and the chassis is actually loaded laterally, it's actually fairly unstable because you're not transferring any energy to any of the tires. The bike just kind of freewheels through the corner. So it's actually best to get on the gas early to get, and when I say get on the gas, pick up the throttle. Yeah. That doesn't mean roll it in, but just get some weight transferred to the rear so that the bike will start steering on the rear. And the bigger the bike, the more important it is. And these big 1000s that these guys ride, it's important to get the weight on the rear as soon as you can, because that's the way the bike is designed to work. The 1000s are designed to steer on the rear tire. Because they've got so much power, you've got to let it steer with the rear tire. 600's a little bit different. Those little GT bikes are way different than that. You can't run a ride like that. So most of you guys are all probably on 600s or bigger. So you're going to want to get on the gas, trail brake to the apex, and get on the gas, at least somewhat positive throttle as early as possible. And that's when you start running into chassis problems, steering wide out of the corner, because you're getting on the gas early. It's transferring more weight earlier in the stroke. So it wants to, when the bike loses geometry in the rear, it wants to steer wide out of the corner. So chassis guys will put more rear spring in, or a bigger rear spring with less preload to help combat that. So you